I accused my wife of being a drug addict in our kitchen at the top of my voice. I was wrong. She took a test I never even asked for. She passed it clean, and I apologized to that woman for 3 weeks straight. That apology is the reason I caught her 4 months later. We had been married 7 years. We met at a store I worked at before this one when she was a cashier and I was a department manager, and I was not allowed to date her. So for 4 months, we pretended we were not. She used to bring me coffee on a Sunday, the day the truck came, and set it on the pallet jack without saying anything. No kids, not because we did not want them, because every year we said the same thing: when we get stable. We never got stable. I am an assistant manager at a Walmart supercenter, and I am salary, which means the store can have me for 50 hours a week or 55, and the number on my check does not move. There is a bonus 4 times a year, and it depends on the whole store, not on me. My wife worked overnights at a convenience store, 10 at night to 6 in the morning. Between the two of us, we covered the rent on a 2 bedroom, the payment on her car, and a card we ran up the year her hours got cut, and not much else. I could not fix that by working more, so I gave them the hours. Our schedules were a joke. I would leave at 4 in the morning to reset a department, tearing shelves down and building them back, and pass her coming in the door. Some weeks I did not see her at all. The smell started after New Year's. She would come home at 8 in the morning, and the whole hallway would smell like weed, not on her breath, in her hair, in her hoodie, in the seats of her car. Now, weed has been legal in this state for years, so it is not like I thought she was a criminal. It was that she had never touched it, not once in 7 years. And here she was, walking into our apartment 3, 4 mornings a week, smelling like it. When I asked her about it, she had an answer ready. She said, "I work overnights at a convenience store. Do you know who comes into a convenience store at 2 in the morning?" And she was not wrong about that. I have thrown people out of my store at closing time for less. I said, "Okay." Then it kept happening, and I stopped saying, "Okay." The money was the part that convinced me. We had $1,200 in savings after Christmas, and by March there was 400, and she was the one who moved money between the accounts. The week before I blew up, I went through her car while she slept. I took the mats out. I went in the console. I went under both seats, and I found a phone charger, 40 cents, and a hair tie. I had already decided. I waited up on a Sunday, and when she came in at 8, I did not ask her anything. I told her. I told her I knew, that I could smell it, that I could see the account, and that I was not watching her turn into somebody I had to hide the rent money from. She stood there in her work polo and let me finish. Then she said, "Take me to get tested right now, today, wherever you want, and you are paying for it. There is an urgent care in a strip mall by the highway that does employer panels 7 days a week. Walk in, no appointment." We sat in that waiting room on a Saturday afternoon and did not say one word to each other. 10 panel test. Clean. The text said the test only shows what she took, not what she was around. She held that paper up in the car before I got it started, and her hand was shaking and she was crying. And she said, "7 years, and this is what you think of me." I have never felt smaller in my life. The money was hers too, and she showed me that the same night, and it was worse for me than the test. $500 had gone to her mother's heat bill in January, and 300 more in February, because her mother is on disability, and the winter bills had come in high. She had not told me. She said, "I did not want to add anything to you." I apologized in the car, and I apologized again that night, and I kept apologizing for 3 weeks. Her mother heard about it within 2 days, and the next time I was in that house, that woman looked at me a long time before she handed me a plate. She never said a word about it. I fixed her back steps that spring without being asked, and she let me. I took my wife to dinner. I stopped asking about the smell entirely. After that Sunday, she knew what crying got her. So she stopped being careful. Not right away. April and May, she was careful in a way she had never bothered being before, and it took her until June to believe I really was not going to ask. She began coming home at 9:30 and 10 instead of 8, and she stopped explaining it. I counted 6 mornings like that in 3 weeks and wrote every one of them down, not lying about it, not explaining it at all. I had lost the right to ask. One morning, I got up for a 4 o'clock reset, and her car was not out front. And when I mentioned it that evening, she said, I ran to the 24-hour store on my break, and I let it go because I was not doing that to her again. Except I know my own company. We have not run a 24-hour store since 2020, and the closest one to her locks the doors at 11. Her break is 20 minutes, and she is the only clerk in that building all night. That is the first thing in 3 months I kept to myself. I wrote the date on the back of a receipt in my glove box instead. That receipt is still in there. Then there was the van. The first time I saw it, I was carrying groceries in, and I walked right past it. The second time, I stopped at the mailboxes and copied the phone number off the door, and I put it in my phone under the vendor's name. And I did not know yet why I was doing that. There is a beverage vendor that runs overnight deliveries to the convenience stores in our area, and his van is a white cargo van with the brand wrapped down the side, and I had seen it parked outside our building twice at 8 in the morning. I know that company because they deliver to my store too in the daytime. He had a delivery run to finish. He was not sitting outside my building on his own time. Both times I told myself he lived in the building. There are 40 units in that complex, and I have never once seen that van on a weekend. In late June, 6 weeks before the filing, I saw them one time, and it lasted about 9 seconds. I had gone in at 4 to reset a department and come back out around 6:30 to move my car, and her store is on the way. The van was around the back of her store with the running lights on, and both of them were in the front of it. She had her leg up on the dash. Then she kissed him. Not a quick one. I drove to work. I was relieved. I was not crazy. Then the receipt in her cup holder. I was cleaning out her car for her, which I had started doing again after the clinic because I was still buying my way back in. It was a receipt from a burger place, $22, 2 sandwiches and 2 drinks at 9:40 in the evening on a night my wife had told me she was going in at 8 to cover the front. I put the receipt back exactly where it was, and I took a picture of it first. I came about 4 inches from walking into that apartment and doing the whole thing over again. I got as far as the door with my keys in my hand. What stopped me was that car and her holding that paper up. I was not going to be wrong a second time. No accusations this time. Not until I had it on paper. I know how a convenience store runs. When that beverage vendor delivers to a convenience store overnight, in some cases, he does not just drop product and leave. Somebody on duty has to receive it. There is an invoice, and the person receiving signs it, and the driver's handheld scanner stamps the time, and that paperwork goes to 3 places: to the store, to the vendor, and to the corporate system that pays the invoice. 2 independent companies both keep paperwork with my wife's signature and a timestamp on it. Her store runs a time clock, and every hour she works sits in that system because that is how she gets paid. So there are 2 sets of records from 2 companies with no reason to lie for either of us that both say where my wife was at a given hour of a given night, and they did not agree. I could not get those records myself. I asked once at her store in the daytime as a customer. The girl behind the counter told me payroll questions go to a district office, and she was not even sure which one. What I did was write down every date I had, the burger receipt, the missing car, the 2 mornings with the van outside our building, and the nights she came home late. I took that list to a divorce lawyer. I sat down and told her I had seen my wife kiss another man and that I wanted to file on adultery. She asked me who else saw it. Nobody. She asked if I had a picture. No. Then she said the thing I was not ready for. She said, "So it is your word," and her lawyer is going to stand up and tell a judge, "You are a jealous husband who accused this woman of being a drug addict 4 months ago and was proven wrong at a clinic, and he will have the paper for that part. Right now, your apology is the best thing her side has." She looked at my list for about a minute, and then she asked me what I did for a living. And when I told her, she said, "Then you already understand what we are about to subpoena." I asked her about the adultery. The lawyer said, "You cannot. Not in this state, not anymore." She told me the law here changed a few years back, and the fault grounds were taken off the books entirely, all of them, adultery included. Today, there are 3 ways out of a marriage here. Both of you agree and sign a full settlement, or you live separate lives for 6 months, or one of you tells the court the marriage is broken beyond fixing. That is it. I said, "So it does not matter what she did?" And she said, "That is not what I said." Then she said, "You cannot use the affair to end the marriage. You use it to decide the money. When a judge in this state divides what a married couple built, and when a judge decides alimony, there is a factor written into both statutes. It is called the circumstances that contributed to the estrangement of the parties." Then she asked me what my wife earns, and I told her. She said, "I need you to understand your position here. Your wife makes about half what you make. In a case like this, she is not the one who has something to lose. You are. She is going to ask you for alimony, and she has a real argument for it, and the affair does not block it in this state. The affair is a factor, and it is the only one you have." She said, "We are building the reason a judge does not hand her a piece of your paycheck for the next year and a half. I did not know she could come out of this with a claim on my money." That was the night I started keeping a folder. The retainer was $3,000, and I did not have $3,000. I had about $600 in a credit union account in my name, opened the week after the clinic. I had told myself it was for a car repair. I asked my brother for the money first. He has 3 kids and a mortgage, and he said yes before I finished the sentence, and I told him no. I sold my tools instead: a miter saw, a table saw, and a nail gun I had bought a piece at a time over 6 years, sold to a guy off an app who came to the apartment on a Sunday and helped me carry it all out for $900 cash. My quarterly bonus came in July at $1,500, the first one in 3 years that was worth anything, and it went straight to a lawyer. From the folder to the filing was 6 weeks, and we lived in that apartment the whole time. I kept my mouth shut, and I kept going to work, and she kept going to work, and twice she cooked for both of us, and I ate it. One night in July, she asked me if we were okay, and I said, "We are tired." She went to bed. That is the coldest I have ever been in my life, and I would do it again. We filed in August on the grounds that the marriage was broken. My lawyer went through the whole complaint with me over the phone before it went in, and it took 90 seconds. No affair named in the complaint. Nothing for her to react to. She was served at the apartment one afternoon while I was at the store. She called me 12 times before my shift ended, and I didn't answer any of them. The last voicemail was 40 seconds of nothing but her breathing. When I got home, she was sitting on the arm of the couch with the papers, and she was already crying before I put my keys down. She said, "You did not even talk to me first." And I said, "I did talk to you first, in March, and you took a drug test to prove me wrong, and I apologized for 3 weeks. This time I had dates." She started to explain the burger place, and then she changed direction and told me it had been over for weeks. Then she asked me not to put the driver's name in anything because he has kids. I told her the lawyers would be pulling records and the records would explain the burger place for her, and I slept on the couch. The folder stayed in my car. The subpoenas went out in late August, right behind the service. My lawyer warned me it could take a month and that the vendor's company might fight the scope of it. They did not fight anything. A compliance clerk sent the whole file back in 9 days with a cover letter that said they had no objection. Her employer sent the time clock records. The vendor sent every delivery invoice for that one store for the previous 12 months, 400 and some pages of them. My lawyer had a paralegal build one page out of all of it, 2 columns, her hours on the left and the invoice stamps on the right. There were 14 nights across 5 months where the vendor's paperwork had my wife signing for a delivery at that store. On 9 of those nights, her own employer had her already clocked out, not on a break and not a few minutes over. She punched out at 6, and that driver's scanner stamped her signature 20 and 40 minutes after she stopped being an employee on the last stop of his run. And on 2 of those nights, she was not on the schedule at all. She had told me she was covering shifts on both of them. My lawyer said the 2 nights she was never scheduled were the ones that mattered. During those weeks, she tried it one more time, standing over the couch I was sleeping on. She waited until I got in from a truck day on a Saturday night, and she cried. And she told me we could stop all of this with one phone call, that we could go to counseling, that people survive worse. Part of me wanted to say yes. What I said was, the paperwork is with the lawyers now. Her side went silent for a week and a half. My lawyer told me later that her lawyer put both stacks in front of her and asked her to explain 9 mornings. When they came back, the alimony request was gone. So was the counseling. What was left was the money. A judge here does not usually reach over and hand my car to my wife. The court adds up what the 2 of you built together, decides what is fair, and then writes a number, a monetary award they call it, and it is a judgment in dollars, one side to the other, and everybody keeps the things in their own name. The fight was about the number, and about the alimony she had already dropped, and about my retirement, which was the only real asset either of us had. 8 years of the company putting money in beside mine, and it had never cracked $26,000. Her lawyer opened asking for a share of the retirement and 18 months of support. My lawyer put the time clock records and the delivery invoices in front of them, side by side, with the 9 off-the-clock nights highlighted, and reminded the room that those 9 nights are the exact factor the statute names. We settled in a conference room in October, and she did not look at me for the first hour. When her lawyer finally dropped the retirement claim, my wife spoke to me directly for the first time all day. She said, "You could have just asked me." And I said, "I did ask you in March, and I have been paying for it ever since." Her lawyer put his hand up before she could answer that. She kept her car and her own small retirement from a job before this one. I kept mine whole, every dollar of 8 years. The monetary award came to $2,200 from me to her. I wrote that check with everybody watching, and I did not complain about it once. No alimony either direction. She moved out the week after we signed. I came home to a half-empty apartment and a note on the counter about the cable bill. That was the last thing she ever wrote to me on paper. The divorce was final in the winter, and there is not one word about a vendor or a van anywhere in that decree. The vendor kept his job. They moved him to different stores. A district manager I have known for years told me, in passing, nothing happened to him over it. The paperwork was all his company cared about. Her mother says she left that convenience store before the settlement was signed. She did not say why, and I did not ask. She works days now at a grocery from what her mother tells me. Her mother says the money is worse. Her mother and I still talk once in a while. I never stopped paying that heat bill in the winter. That woman never did a thing to me. I moved out of that apartment in the spring, and I took the smaller place on purpose. The store gave me a bigger area in February, and the bonus finally meant something in April. I put the whole thing in savings, in an account in my name. She reached out twice. The first time was a text in February that said she was sorry about how it all happened, and I did not answer it. The second was in June, and this one I did answer because of what it said. She wrote, "I never used anything. You know that, right?" I wrote back, "I know. I was wrong about that in March." And then I put the phone down. In May, I bought a table saw, a better one than the one I sold. It is in a storage unit under my name. Well, in my opinion, this woman did something colder than cheating. She let an innocent man grovel. Think about what she watched him do. He accused her of drugs. She proved him wrong. And then she stood there and collected 3 weeks of apologies, dinners, and guilt, knowing the whole time that the thing he was smelling was another man's life on her clothes. She was clean on the test and filthy on the marriage, and she used the clean part as a shield. That is not a woman who made a mistake. That is a woman who found out her husband's conscience worked and used it against him. And the crying. Every time this man got close to the truth, she cried, and crying bought her the kitchen, the serve day, and one last try on that couch. It did not buy her the paperwork. The driver is no better. A man with a wedding ring on his delivery run, sitting outside another man's apartment at 8 in the morning. And the best thing anybody can say about him is that his company had no objection to handing over the invoices. She almost walked out of that marriage with a piece of his paycheck. The law in that state does not care that she cheated. It only cares about the money. And if that man had stayed wrong, stayed sorry, and stayed quiet, he would be paying her alimony right now while she works day shifts and tells her side of it. He is not paying her for one reason. He stopped apologizing and started counting. Good for him. As I have said in many of the stories I cover, don't ever let someone make a fool out of you. See you in the next one.